Okay, we'll get started. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are, everyone. My name is Annie Shindi. Welcome to today's Smartsheet Asia Virtual User Group. Today we have a guest speaker, Anurag Vaishnav from Denzai. The user group will be hosted by myself, and we've got a few other colleagues that are on the call. Just quickly, as you can see on the page, there's a legal slide. Just contains information around some information around what we have, and any forward-looking information that we may share may be confidential. Now, the slide that you see on your screen. Today, as I said, I'll be hosting the user group. We have the CIO of Denzai, Anurag Vaishnav, who we will be speaking to and who will be sharing out his experience using Smartsheet. Later in the demonstration, we've also got Tina Gassan, who's our commercial sales engineer. Tina will go through an example in Smartsheet, as well as any other features that she's presenting today. In the background also, we've got Ali Oral, Customer Success Manager at Smartsheet. She's going to be sitting in the background answering any questions that you present in that you type in the Q&A button that you'll see in your Zoom chat page. And today's agenda. Now, I won't go through the entire agenda, but just at a high level, we've got, as I said, Anurag's presentation and then Tina's presentation. But amongst that as well, we've got some sessions where we will be asking questions to Anurag as well as Tina at the end of the presentation. So like I said, if you've got questions, please type away in the Q&A, and also use the chat button if you want to say hi or let us know where you're from. A few housekeeping things before we get started. In your Zoom chat, you'll see that you've got a few options there. Use the chat button if you want to have a conversation with us, or if you want to say hi. I encourage people to say hi and tell us where they're from. So if you're from Singapore, if you're from India, just say hi and let us know. But if you've got specific questions around Smartsheet, around your solution, around Anurag's presentation, or around Tina's presentation, please ask away in the Q&A. Ali is looking at those questions, and I will also pick some of those questions out, and we'll have an open Q&A around some of them. Okay, so we're going to hand over to Anurag. Anurag will be explaining his perspective of Smartsheet. Anurag is the CIO of Denzai. He's a great Smartsheet user. He's got a lot of experience around it. And I'll pass over to him, Anurag.
Thank you, Ani. Thanks a lot. Hello, everyone. My name is Anurag, as Ani just introduced me before. I'm actually working with a company, a Japanese engineering company called Denzai. And we have our offices around the Asia Pacific regions. So apart from Denzai, I'm sitting here in Singapore, and we also have offices in other countries in Asia Pacific. So thank you for Smartsheet to inviting me to talk to this user group of Smartsheet user group. As you will realize that we have about 18 months or so, we have been using Smartsheet, and I will talk about it a bit later. But just a little bit of a business overview for Denzai. We are an engineering company which is based from Japan. We do have about 7 or 8 locations or offices within Japan, and we have the offices in Singapore and some other countries, as you see, Taiwan, Korea, Vietnam, and also now in India as well. So our business is basically mostly to do with the engineering. Majority of it is construction. So you can see that we have the power plant construction, some industrial plant construction, bridge construction, and all kind of civil engineering, and like roads, airports, all kind of things which we work on within Japan. I mean, outside Japan, we are more engaged into the offshore and onshore wind turbine installation work. So transportation and installation of wind turbine, their equipments into some of those difficult territories and so on. We, as I said, we have our also our work done in Taiwan, Vietnam, Korea, and so on. So we have a it's a very diversified business, and it's growing fast. And we had some we're kind of growing way too fast at the moment, and then through the merger and acquisition. So Samantha, maybe next sheet. Okay, so as I said, our growth is very fast through merger and acquisitions into different countries. So we have our business challenge at this moment is to have consistent and transparency, right? A consistent approach of the reporting, project management, and also transparency across the business, because with the merger and acquisition we do have different people coming in different they have different practices, they have their own processes and their own systems. So we wanted to put a new system which is consistent across the whole group. So, as you see in my challenges thing, that we also had some issues with our project management, because each region or each office, they had their own little tools. Some were using like Microsoft Project, some were just using Excel, and a few other people were using a few things which is even I don't know. So we were trying to build something very consistent across the offices. And we also had an added difficulty of the geographic locations, all remote, offices, the staff, and also in certain cases also the language issues, especially in Japan as well. So that's where we were looking for a product which you can use to bring those things, the consistency and transparency into our reporting and the way of working in operations. So we looked at a few products and came across a Smartsheet, and we started using Smartsheet July 2021. So we are not very experienced user or old user yet. We are still working our way through it and learning more and more. But two main focuses for Smartsheet which we wanted to do. One was to have a consistent project management approach. So we kind of using now Smartsheet to manage our projects, uh, and in a way which is same. And although we try to put it a PMO aspect of it, right? So we have used the standard template from the Smartsheet to build our PMO reporting and individual project reporting at individual levels. And the second thing which we wanted to do was the dashboards, because we have a lot of reports, a lot of KPI things which we wanted to communicate across in a one manner, consistent manner again. So that is the second thing which we are using Smartsheet for. So Samantha, if we can, yeah. So here you can see that we use the dashboards to bring in a number of areas, and this is just the sales area where we trying to put in some information from the different entities, and this is just an example. We do have a lot more other reporting coming out of the sales as well. So here we kind of used I think it was from probably one of the template from Smartsheet, and we customized a bit to feed our requirement. And you can see we have kind of blur out some of the financial things from there. But I think this became a very good reporting from the sales point of view, because we do have regular sales meetings in our different offices, and we have broke it into the different areas and the different regions. So this is just for we are using it for like particularly Singapore region, right? So you can see we not only we do for the current year, but if you see on the top, we also have the links to 2021 and 2023. So we kind of just sorry 1 minute. Need to sorry. So we kind of built our smart sheets on the regional basis, and we also have the link to each other, so we can move from one dashboards to another dashboards easily. And in this case also the yearly. So if somebody wants to go and look at the 21 or 23, those kind of things. This I think, as you say, the picture tells 1,000 words. So every user is very happy, and the management is very happy because it doesn't require them to do the reporting on ad hoc basis. They can just simply go into the dashboard, and we do have we the way we have designed our dashboards. Also, we require the minimal input from the end users. So not to make it very complex, make it very simple for the end user to fill in only a few columns, and this is updated immediately. So in our regular meetings, sales meeting, or even steering committee meetings, we use the screenshots or the on the screen these reports, which helps the management to understand things very easily, and the users as well. Next slide is for again similar thing for our finance dashboard. Here we also, you see, we have the links for each and different entities within our business group, and we have created some sheet based on what was in the practice, and we try to improve it a little bit more. So this is something which we create, and the sheet on the bottom, if you see the revenue actual and the PBT actual, these are the only two columns they have to fill in every month. So it's extremely simple for the end users to go in and just put two figures for that month, and and it's all done there. So they don't have to sit down and look into the different kind of reporting or create the reporting, for the meetings and so on. So this is I think we try to make it as simple for our users as we can, and all the other things are just calculated, which are set in the Smartsheet itself. The next one, another dashboard I try to show here, and this is our incident reporting. So as an operational or engineering company, we also have, we try to capture any incidents which happens on the sites or on the road or wherever. So this is the kind of thing which we have, which we created out of Power Apps in Microsoft. So the people right on their phone, they can report any incident, they can take the pictures and so on. So the Power Apps way is to capture this incident. But what we did in the background was we created the Microsoft it's called Flow or Power Automate, and any incident which was reported through the Power Apps, and it was stored in the SharePoint, we built we integrated with a Smartsheet in the backend. So this again, we created some kind of reporting out of it, and we have more reporting out of this thing. This is just an example. So we kind of try to present the try to present the information in a more graphical manner, easy to understand manner. So this is another dashboard. So if you see, we are trying to integrate Smartsheet with another systems as well, which we are using. So any reporting or anything which we feel like the dashboard would be useful, we create our dashboards in Smartsheet while integrating with other systems as well. So I think that is maybe the next slide. Okay, so results. So in 18 months, we have been able to do a lot of things. And I think our initial challenge was to have a consistent approach to project planning and project management, which we have built in. So all our users now using Microsoft, sorry, not Microsoft, the Smartsheet project feature. And then we, out of projects as well, we have our own dashboards where we kind of follow up on the status, cost, and the scheduling issues. So we kind of have now worked out a consistent approach to our projects, and as well as the reporting of the projects. Similarly, I think we have also used some of the other functions like initiating a new project, which is again from the, I think, standard template from the Smartsheet. So where we submit the project request, and we go through the approval of the projects there as well. And I think one good thing, as I said before, that is saving us a heaps of time, because we do have a number of different meetings and number of different reporting requirements, which we can do very easily from the smart sheet. So we are saving on time from the every kind of stuff, and especially in our case where we have offices which are understaffed in certain places, over the new business where they don't have too much stuff. So it's working very well for us. We save a lot of man hours in kind of reporting and project management as well. So that is it, I think. Is there another slide? Oh,
Yep.
yeah, sorry. It's all right. So any
Thank you
questions? Yeah,
so
please.
Yeah, thank you so much for that, Anurag. That was really insightful. I really like how you mentioned how project management has an impact on different forms of businesses, and I guess the importance of reporting and dashboarding. You emphasized there as well. Now, for the next part of our user group today, I'm just going to ask Anurag some questions. So the first one, I guess we have here, Anurag, for yourself, is what has been the biggest impact on either your team or your business ever since you have migrated to Smartsheet?
I think the biggest impact would have been timely reporting, right? Because before we were struggling to come up with the reporting, and then as with the staff situation, lack of staff resources, we were always struggling. A lot people were spending a lot of time on creating these reports. So I think that is the one of the biggest benefit we see in terms of time saving. And then yeah.
Sure. Thank you. A lot of our users, I believe, would agree with that. Smartsheet dashboards and reports are quite useful. I guess next question: if Smartsheet wasn't implemented, or if this change did not happen in your organization, what would be the risk or the outcome, the business risk or the business outcome of not implementing a tool like Smartsheet?
I think one will be the transparency across the group, right? That would be difficult to measure it in one place. We were the way we were doing it before. Everyone was sending their reports, and everyone was presenting them in a meeting. But we were looking them in a segregated way, right? Not across the board, the whole thing. So it was not so visible to management, to put
Yeah.
it this way. It was not side by side everything. But now what we have is our results side by side, and it's easy to compare. And yeah, that would have been our biggest problem, or was the biggest problem. So without a smart sheet, we would be still spending a lot of time, and not getting the full picture in a way we are getting now with the smart sheet.
Yeah, definitely. Transparency, accountability, definitely words that are very beneficial once implemented. So next question: what was your change management approach for implementation of Smartsheet? What are the activities that you had your organization or yourself partake in so everyone adopted?
Sure, yeah. I think that was very interesting, because what we did initially, we created ourselves a few things, like some dashboard or some projects within IT, and we presented it to all the users so they could clearly see what was the final product, right? So that was, and then we also showed them how easy it was to use this compared to some other, let's say, Microsoft projects or something. So we tried to show them examples before, so they could see the finished product. And at the same time, we also showed them how easy it was to use it. And then we what we did was we got some some, what you may call them, super users or whatsoever. We got people from each business unit, and then we went through them and trained them. And then they were the, like, a first users, so the lead users, if you like, from each business, and gave them the enough training, and also training provided by the Smartsheet. Gave them all the links to the different videos, and then kind of push them into expanding the use of that into their own regions and so on. So that was one thing. And I think usually if they see it working, and if they see it is saving them time and is making their work a little bit easier. So that was quite a good way of just showing them that how it can save them time and their efforts as well.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I think having great adoption really helps with the reporting aspect, making sure you have right metrics for decision making. I've only got two more questions down, Rug. So second last question. Our audience today, they're at different stages of their journey with Smartsheet, and this is a great opportunity for you to inspire our audience from a Denzai perspective. So just thinking about the different journeys and the different stages of the journey, what would your advice be overall to our users that have joined us today?
I think it was same for us about 16 months or 18 months ago. We had no idea about how the Smartsheet works or how we can do it. But what we did, as I said, we started off with the smaller projects or less complex things to bring in first, so-called low-hanging fruits, and showed them, how it is, how easy it would be, and then later on we can bring in the complex reporting and so on. But I think the other thing I would say that once we started, once we made up our mind we will use a Smartsheet, we pushed it very hard at the same time. I mean, we didn't we created a kind of sense of urgency there to start using it from everyone, because we knew if we were not so fast, then the things, other agencies will take place, and people will start. It will be difficult to get them used. So just kind of make sure that they understand it's easy to use, and they also start using it as soon as possible rather than leaving it for later.
Absolutely, absolutely. Great advice. And last question I have, this is more personal to you. Based on your experience, what is your favorite feature in Smartsheet or your personal hack in Smartsheet that you could recommend based on your position or experience? Yeah.
Yeah, I think the best thing I like, I'm not sure if it is a hack, but the drill down, from the each widget or each graph or each what you call the chart, uh, getting into the details for behind each of these widgets. That is probably one of my favorite, and I think it's also appreciated by other users as well. Uh, Other than that, I like to try to do things differently. Next time when I'm doing the similar dashboard, I try to do it a little bit more differently. See across, if there are other people who are doing things differently, or what else the new functionality I can use. Try to make it more easier. Put it this way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sure, sure. Thank you so much for those answers. I think our audience will really benefit from your experience and your story today.
Thank you.
Next slide, Samantha. So for the next part of the presentation, I'm actually going to hand over to Tina. Tina is our commercial sales engineer, and she will be going through a demonstration of aspects of Smartsheet and other things. You're on mute, Tina.
Thank you, Ani. I am just going to start my screen share. Just give me a second. Just want to check with the audience. Can everybody see my screen?
Yep.
Excellent. And I'm just going to move this across. So we are focusing on more important things. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Tina, and I am one of the commercial sales engineer at Smartsheet. And as a commercial sales engineer, my role really is to help our customers in their journey, to help assess the new solutions they're thinking of utilizing or leveraging Smartsheet, to validate whether it be a good solution, a good fit, and helping them by talking and explaining about the features and capability that they can utilize in their solution. So, Anurag, I'm very impressed in how in such a short time Denzai has leveraged these dashboards to surface all these kind of different metrics and the benefit that is brought to the team and the organization overall. So it was quite impressive to see all these different areas where you've put together the dashboards. So For the purpose of today's conversation, I think it'll be, it gives us a good segue into understanding a little bit more about dashboard as to what these dashboards are, how we can build them, and different widgets. Now, before I dive into my demo, I think somebody in the audience had asked a question about can we use Smartsheet as for incident management, or do we have to pull that information through Power BI? So the short answer is yes, we can absolutely use Smartsheet to manage our incidents. And that's one example and really speaks to the power of the platform, how we can leverage Smartsheet for multiple use cases. So we saw some examples today of the sales, and we saw an example of finance and project management, incident management. So we can use Smartsheet in all these different use cases and more to really leverage the core capabilities of surfacing the key information and metrics onto a dashboard. Yeah. So with that, let's take a deeper dive into understanding a little bit more about the dashboard. Now, as you all know, the dashboard is really our source of truth, or is really a visual layer to surface any information that is sitting in the underlying sheets and reports. So there are multiple ways in how we can take this information that's happening at a sheet, the work that's happening at a sheet level, and surface it onto a dashboard. If we are working across multiple sheets, we can then even consolidate the data from these sheets into a report and surface the key metrics and the reports onto a dashboard. But dashboard does not really limit us to only surfacing the information in sheets and report, but we can also connect and bring data from an external source or link to our critical information that sits outside Smartsheet as well. And that is really the power of our dashboards. So let's understand, how do we go ahead and build these dashboards? Now, there are multiple ways in which, or rather, there are multiple widgets by which we can build these dashboards and make them really meaningful. And we do that by simply dragging and dropping these different widgets onto the dashboard. The way I like to categorize or explain is we have, depending on the purpose, we have three main categories of dashboards. The first category is our format and text widgets, right? So these are like our title, rich text, and image widgets. Now, these widgets really help us define and give meaning to our dashboard and kind of have titles for the different sections and explaining what our dashboard, which area of the dashboard to focus on. The second set of widgets is the one that helps us surface the KPIs and important information from the underlying sheet and reports onto the dashboard. And we do this through the metric report and the chart widget. The third and the final set of the category of our widgets are the widgets that help us connect our dashboard to any critical third-party system. So whether we can connect it through a link, through a shortcut, or if it's a published external source, then we can take that link and embed it onto a dashboard. So we're now going to see how we can use these three different categories or 8 different widgets and build these beautiful, meaningful dashboards. So for the purpose of today's presentation, I already have a dashboard over here. So as you can see in this example, I have a dashboard that is surfacing an information about my project. Now, for anybody who is new to Smartsheet, what you would begin with is a blank canvas of dashboard. And then just by clicking on this pencil icon and this plus sign, you can get to all the different types of widgets that you can add onto your dashboard and configure it. One of a very good practice that I always recommend my customers or anybody who is building this dashboard is, while you're building your dashboard, try and always put that in a gray background color, because what that helps us do is to really distinguish the background color from the different widgets that I've added. So it helps when we are moving things around and stuff. It just kind of helps us in managing those. Here we go. So I'm just going to. Now, the other thing is we can always do undo with our dashboard really quickly, bringing it back onto its original state. If sometimes the widget cells move or we want to undo the changes, we can simply click the undo button. Now, another very good practice is, when you're working with these multiple widgets, is to actually be able to multi-select a lot of these widgets. And then once they are selected, you can simply drag and drop instead of moving these widgets one at a time. So let's look at some of these widgets over here and understand how we build these dashboards. So the first set of widgets that I mentioned was our title, rich text, and image widgets. So in my example over here, I have this as a title widget, an image widget, and a rich text widget. Now, the reason we would use these widgets is if we want to, say, give a heading to our dashboard, or within a different sections within dashboard, if we want to give titles or subsection headings to the dashboard, we can use the title widgets. A lot of times, if customers want to use a banner to explain what is the dashboard about, whether it's an engineering dashboard or maybe finance-related dashboard, so they can add banners to the dashboard, or maybe even the logo, which is then added as an image widget. And every time we click on a widget, we can, depending on your type of widget, there's a certain amount of formatting that you can do. So for an example, for an image widget, you can specify if you want a title or not. And as Anurag was saying, his favorite feature is a widget behavior, which gives the ability to drill down. So for every widget that you have, you can define whether do you want to take any action, do you want to open another site, do you want to open another Smartsheet item, or what do you want the widget to do when a user actually clicks on it, making it a more interactive dashboard. So rich text, title, and image are really simple and straightforward widgets to be added. But the next set of widgets, which is really your metric report and charts, are an important set of widgets because they really help us surface the key information in real time onto the dashboard. So as people are working on the sheet, marking an item as completed, updating the statuses, all of those informations get surfaced in real time onto these dashboards. So let's talk first about a metric widget. A metric widget essentially helps us, as it says over here, displays the key cell values from a sheet, right? So in my example over here, I have a metric widget. If I click on it and edit it, I would see that I'm already connecting it to a project plan sheet. And within a project plan sheet, while it brings that up, I have it open over here. So this is my project plan sheet. And what I'm doing in that metric widget is I have some summaries and calculations over here, and I want to say, show me a percentage complete, and I'm linking it to that cell. So a metric widget is essentially pulling that information from that cell and displaying it on my dashboard. You would also notice, in addition to pulling a grid data, as I am in this case, we also have an option of sheet summary data. So what that means is sometimes when we are looking at a sheet, if we don't want to pull that information from the individual cell, we can create what's called a sheet summary, right? And within a sheet summary, we can define what our column name is or sheet name is, and then we can define certain calculations. So for example, in this example over here, we are counting how many items are not started versus in progress versus completed. We are also looking at our sheet to calculate the start date and end date of the project. And then instead of pointing it to an individual cell within a sheet, we can link to the sheet summary data and pull that information. So to give you a view of how that looks like, I'll go over to another widget, which is my key date widgets. And within my key dates widget, you can see that is actually pulling the data from sheet summary. I can specify what information to pull just by ticks and it will add that information over here onto my dashboard. A lot of time, what happens is when we have these summaries and this key information reported onto a sheet, a lot of customers and users, a lot of users want to keep their project plans really clean, right? They only want users to go and update the information. But they want a separate sheet to calculate and do all these calculations and summary metrics across the sheet. Another good reason is we create these metric sheets is, let's say if you have a project and you have multiple sheets with the project, you're calculating budgets, you're calculating risks and issues and your project statuses, etc. You want one single sheet where you can do, where it kind of summarizes or aggregates all of the key information across your project. So what you can do is then also create a project metric sheet that does all the calculation referencing to your base underlying project sheets and gives you a good metric sheet that then you can use it in your widget. So in my going back to my widget over here, I'm looking at an at-risk widget or at-risk metric widget. And what it's doing, it's actually pulling the information from my metric sheet, again, through the grid, but through a sheet that has all my roll-up of all my metrics. So I just wanted to demonstrate just a simple example of how you can use a metric widget in multiple ways, right? Primarily, there are two ways, either through a grid or a summary, but depending on how we want to organize our data and keep it neat and tidy, we can also create a separate sheet, which is calculating all and aggregating all our metrics onto the dashboard. Another good example or another good reason why we want to create a metric sheet, it really helps us bring our charts to life, right? So now when we are building charts, we could use different reports, or we could simply do it through a metric sheet, because then it becomes really easy because all our information is already aggregated and counted. So here is an example where I have a charts now. So I have added two different examples of charts, and I can simply edit it. And I'm using, in this example, I'm using a metric sheet to count what are the total number of tasks that are assigned to each people who are working on my project, and giving a good summary as well. Alternatively, I could also use a report to build these charts. Now, when I'm using a chart widget, there are a lot of other configurations that we can do. We can select, depending on the type of information or depending on the type of chart we want to build, we can either build a column chart, a bar chart, maybe even a pie chart, right? So it kind of takes that information and summarizes it. So I'm just going to leave that back to a column chart. In addition to that, we can configure, do we want a title? Do we want the legends? Where do we want to place the legends? What are the horizontal, vertical axis looks like, etc. Again, you would notice for every widget that is there, we have a widget behavior. That way we can specify what do we want the action to be if the user was to click on that chart. So we can link it to the source data and take it and let it open so that users can have a look at it in more detail. Now, this brings us to the next, or the third type of, widget within our second category is a report widget. Now, in my example over here, I already have some pre-built reports. So I have these reports that I have built out of my chart, which is at-risk report, milestone report, even a task report, which is more like a card view report, and I've added them to the dashboard. Now, here's an interesting thing. When I'm adding a chart, or when I'm adding a report to the dashboard, the system gives me an option whether I want to show Gantt or hide Gantt. I can usually add it by a grid, or if I want, I can even show a Gantt chart. But if I want, as you might be aware, we have different views within reports. We also have something what's called a card view. So if I were to put a report, which is in a card view, then I would need to publish that report and grab and put it as a web content. So in this example over here, I have a report over here, but instead of showing it, because I wanted it to come in a card view, I have to add it as a web content widget as opposed to a report view. Right. So if I were to go back and edit it, we would see that this particular report, I have to add it in a web content widget. And that's because we have published this report and we want it to card view, and we want it dynamic so that the user can view by status, they can view by priority, and make it a little bit more interactive, right? So if I want to see, I can have this, not only I can have this on my dashboard, but I can make it really interactive for the users as well. Now that brings us to the very last and the final section about the third type of widgets, which is, in addition, we are surfacing the information from the sheet and reports. How do we make our dashboard as one single source of truth? And we do that by incorporating the external content into our widgets. And we can do that by two different types of widgets. One is our shortcut widgets and your web content widgets. Shortcut widgets help us really link to any other different websites, maybe a Smartsheet item, could be a sheet report or a dashboard, or even other attachments. So if you have your PDF files, any different types of files that you want to add, which are critical to the project, you want to add it as a link, you can simply add them onto your shortcut widget. So if I go to shortcut widget, system gives me an option. What kind of widgets do I want to add? What kind of link do I want to add? Website attachment to Smartsheet item, and allows me to add that link onto the dashboard. But a more interesting type of widget when talking about the external web content, external content, or bringing over that external content into Smartsheet is your web content widget. So as an example over here, I have this Power BI dashboard that I have embedded as a web content widget. And not only does it give me the visibility into the information that's happening within my Power BI system, but it also helps me it's also very interactive and helpful. So it helps me click on that information, look at my different analytics, move on from one section to another, and filter the data and view it. Now, in this example, I have just embedded a Power BI dashboard, but let's say if you have a form within Smartsheet, you can embed that as well within the dashboard, or a YouTube video or a PowerPoint deck. So when you are having your presentations, you don't need to build separate decks and have your information, but you can actually embed your deck and your videos or anything within the dashboard itself. So as you saw there, these are just very quick examples of all the different widgets that you can add to Smartsheet and make your these dashboards look very interesting and meaningful. This kind of brings me to our next section today, where I want to give you some design tips of the dashboard that I have learned based on my experience working with Smartsheet. The first and the foremost is, whenever you're designing your dashboard, don't think too much about where should the information go. Maybe just take a paper and a pen, jot down what is it that you want this dashboard to surface? What KPIs, what metrics do you want to report? Do you want it to be interactive? Once we have listed and built that data on the dashboard, we can then work with the design and move it across. The other thing that I want to mention is always once your dashboards are ready, always use the white for a cleaner look, right? So as I showed you, we can always change it to a gray background. But once we have finished working with our dashboards, it's always best to kind of change it back to white background for that cleaner look. The next thing is a consistent color and themes. With every organization, Denzai has its own brand coloring. Different organizations have different brands. And if you want to incorporate that onto your dashboard, not just have your logo, you can simply do that as well, right? So we give you color palettes that you can use to specify different colors that you want. And as you're building these charts, you can even customize it, put the hex code there, and they'll be using the colors that you want. The next thing that I want to talk about is your define widget interaction to create button and links. So what Anurag mentioned, his favorite feature about being able to drill down. So what I want to say here is keep your dashboard really clean. Don't try to fit in a lot of information. Note that there is an option, a drill down capability within the dashboard. So for your reports, or your different, if you want more detail about a particular section, add that ability so that you can drill down from one dashboard to another or from one section to another. Yeah, so keep it neat and tidy. And last is that using your dashboard, you can use a present mode and auto refresh. So for your meetings, and you really don't need to spend time in preparing a separate deck. We have the presenter mode where you can actually present these dashboard, where it kind of takes away unhides your address and all the tabs, and you can use these dashboards to present it in your meetings, etc., saving you a lot of manual time and effort, as Anurag was mentioning. Last, I would like to also point you to certain other resources, because obviously there was a lot that was covered within the last 10 minutes. I'm sure you're keen to learn more about Smartsheet, the different capabilities. So here are some resources that I can point you to. So if you want to learn more in a self-service manner, we have a learning center where there are video, help articles, webinars, recorded webinars like these that you can leverage. You can always also go to the Smartsheet Solution Center. And what that is basically a gallery of templates, predefined templates. It is really useful for any new user that they can go to a Solution Center and say, if you're looking for project management, inventory management, any of these different product categories, you can search, and there are different template sets that are available that you can leverage. We also have a Smartsheet University, which is your on-demand and instructor-led training, certifications, and more. So if you're keen, happy to arrange that for you. But in addition to that, we have a lot of users out there in the community who are using Smartsheet. And so please do join our community forum, especially if you're new to Smartsheet. Post your questions. They're very quick in responding to your questions, and there's a lot of resource that's available out there. But if you have any additional questions, we are more than happy to help you. So please go to our Get Help page and post your questions, and somebody from our support team will be more than happy to answer that for you. I hope you found this session useful. If you have any questions, I'm happy to take them now.
Sure. Thank you so much for that, Tina. Thank you for the detail. I think our clients will it will provoke a lot of different ideas on how to create dashboards, and I think there's a few questions our clients have today as well. So just the first question for yourself there, Tina. Can you explain how to select multiple widgets and move them in a dashboard again? Can you please show us again, or explain to us how to do that?
Can you repeat the question again, Anurag? Sorry.
Yeah. How do you move multiple widgets in a dashboard?
Good question. So we could simply select them. So I'm holding down my key, shift key, selecting it, and then we can just simply move it around. So as you can see, I have just selected those and I've moved it across. Or depending on what system you have, if you want to only move a couple of them, you can just hold down your shift key, select, and move them across.
Great. Thank you so much. One other question for yourself from the audience. In terms of reporting from a project plan, must we always create a project sheet with metrics, or can we? How can we create reports from a project plan around how many tasks or how many risks it may have? Okay.
So is the question, how do we create a metric sheet from a project plan?
No, more around how do we create a dashboard with a chart on it? That, for example, your task by status. How did you create that? And did you have to create a metric sheet, or is it possible any other way? Our customers want to know if we need to create separate sheets for reporting, or it can be done from the project plan.
Okay, good question. So usually the way I would recommend my customer is to kind of keeping your metric sheets and reports different to your operational data. So the two charts, as you can see here, my first example is pulling a chart from a project metric sheet. So the metric sheet that I had created over here, because I have all my summarized data here, depending what I want to create, which type of chart I want to create, a chart on task priority, status, or who's assigned to, I can simply go to my metric sheet and I can create it. In my second example over here for my chart by status, I've done it a little bit differently, where I'm using a task roll-up report. And essentially what a roll-up report is doing what a metric sheet is doing, but more at a report level. So it's what we call it as a sheet summary report. So if you remember, I'm just going to take a minute to go back to my sheet. So if you remember, in my project plan, I had created some sheet summary. So then what I've done is I have created a report called a task roll-up report. And this is a report of type summary type report. This is not a grid report. So what that means is when you create any new report, the first thing it prompts you is what type of report you want to create, a row report or a sheet summary report. And when we create a sheet summary report, it pulls the column or allows us to pull the values from the sheet summary that we have. And this task roll-up report is an example of the sheet summary report. So there are two different examples. You can do it whatever way you like. The third way, which is actually also very nice and easy to do, given that we now have group filtering, grouping, and reporting within the reports, is you can create a report. I'll open a different one. You can create a report. So in my example over here, I have created a report only on priority. So I have just pulled a priority column, and then I have grouped that by priority and summarized to show the count. So the advantage of doing this way and then building my report is that I don't have to do any formulas and calculations. What I can do is I can simply go to my dashboard. I can edit it, maybe add a chart. I can add a data. It's called, within my priority report. And it'll just open the report in a minute. I can select the data and I can say count, right? And as you can see how quickly and easily it's added the information, and I can simply save it. Yeah. So multiple ways of doing it, and we can add it.
Thanks for that. Just another question there on reports around sharing, Tina. When we share reports, can we restrict it to specific users so they don't make edits on those reports? Because I'm assuming some of these reports will be directly linked to dashboards. So how do we make sure the filters or the groupings doesn't change by any user?
So you can restrict the reports and give them only view permission, right? Or you can limit the user to only view the report onto the dashboard, but not giving the drill down ability so that they're not able to go to the source reports.
Great. So that's a feature amongst all different types of Smartsheet items, the ability to view and edit and admin. Well, I got one last question for Tina. Now, this is quite a useful question. I think it's a great question. Can we customize the solution templates to fit my projects, or do we have to use the Solution Center templates as is?
No, absolutely you can. Like for the purpose of today's session, I have actually myself downloaded a template set for project tracking and rollup. So feel free to go into Solution Center, search for it, download it, and I've gone and made changes to the dashboard, made some additional reports to help explain the different types of widgets. So yes, you can absolutely alter it.
Sounds good. That finishes our Q&A with Tina. Samantha, did you want to bring the slides up again?
I just stop sharing. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, So just some closing information for our audience here. Here's a slide that shows some resources and upcoming events. We've got user groups coming up in April, in March, and June, and then there's as Tina shared before, there's a whole heap of resources that you can find online, and you can also reach out to customer success at smartsheet.com if you want to improve how you use Smartsheet currently, or if you've got some sort of troubleshooting issue or a formula help kind of issue. There's also the support channel that you can reach out to, and someone will reach back out to you. Next slide. Was that one more slide? So thank you everyone that has joined us today. We hope you enjoyed Anurag's company. Thank you, Anurag, for presenting. I think you were very insightful. I think you've inspired a lot of people on call today. There was a lot of questions coming through. Thank you again, Tina, for presenting that demonstration and answering those questions. And I hope everyone else has a very good afternoon, evening, depending on where you are. Thank you.